What up, YouTube? It's your boy. Now, if there's anything you should know about me, I love Transformers. A lot. A bit too much. Someone please help me. And as a Transformers fan, I am more than delighted that Rise of the Beast is coming out very soon.
Let them come.
As a Transformers fan, and I had the toy collector, I should probably talk about some of the toys that have been coming out. Unfortunately, I don't have any.
Hey, it's me, Editing Alex. So a few days after I filmed this, I bought these guys. So yeah, now I have Rise of the Beast toys. But we're still gonna do this anyway.
Yeah, whatever. So I think, instead, let's go back to the first movie in this trilogy and take a look at Studio Series Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. Now, just by looking at this figure, you can tell that this is an absolutely wonderful piece of painting and sculpting. The figure is a great interpretation of Optimus Prime from the Bumblebee movie itself, and combines both elements of the G1 toy and the Michael Bay designs to create an absolutely fantastic figure. In fact, I have these two here right now, and you can definitely see that both designs are taken into account when this figure is made. It's also a very impressive figure given the context of which it was made. So a little bit of background on this guy. This guy was made during the initial release of the Bumblebee movie, and a lot of those designs don't really look like they do in the movie. That's because most of the Bumblebee toys released then were based around concept art that didn't make the final cut. But I am glad to say, despite it being based off concept art, it is a great job of capturing the final design. The only problem I really have is the head. I don't know what it is, but something about it just didn't really look like the final movie design. I think it might have been the eyes, they're just a little too wide. But I'm really just talking out of my ass at this point. This head sculpt is fantastic, and it's an absolute joy to look at. I think one of the most impressive parts of the figure is this backpack. I mean, look at all this detail here, and it perfectly replicates the backpack of the final design, which is something you don't often see in Transformers. And yeah, it's all a fake part, but it's great. It works. You may also notice that there are some little holes here. Not only does that work for further detail in the robot mode, it also helps with weapon storage. In terms of accessories, this ion blaster is the only one you get with this guy, and it looks fantastic. I love how much it tries to emulate the original design while also giving it some realistic aesthetic, like the realistic magazine. And I don't know why, I really like the fact that it has a little pointy bit. And for comparison's sake, here it is next to the G1 gun. As you can see, it definitely looks more realistic. But anyway, as I was saying earlier, with these backpack ports, using these pegs, you can plug the gun right into there, and that works really well as backpack storage. But of course, you can always just put it in his hands. And with that in hand, he looks absolutely amazing. A true embodiment of Optimus Prime. Now, even though it is visually impressive, and I mean that, this thing looks amazing, it doesn't save the fact that it's not the best toy to play with. And what do I mean by that? Well, yeah, this guy's not the most fun to play. Before I talk about the issues with this figure, I should mention that most of them are just personal things. It might be different with your copy, but for my copy, yeah, it doesn't really handle the greatest. The only real obtrusive kibble is the panels at his arms, but again, it's not the worst kibble. And besides, if you take this arm panel, it becomes a little communicator. I wonder what Prime is watching. Also, the aforementioned backpack does have these parts that, when looked at from the front, kind of ruin the whole silhouette of the figure. But again, it's not terrible. What is bad, however, is how loose the figure is. Not only in terms of joints, but also just general tabs, and nothing really holds together well. The elbow joint is very loose. Secondly, the backpack, this part is supposed to slot in, but it doesn't. And also, the backpack doesn't really tab in securely, so depending on how you mess with it, the whole thing can come loose. Now, so far, all of this is pretty manageable. Until you get to the legs. The legs on this figure are by far the worst part of this figure in terms of solidity. First of all, the hips are not the tightest and they don't feel the greatest. Again, very loose. The knees are extremely loose on my copy, so he tends to just flop over a lot. But by far, the worst aspect is the solidity. Now, in terms of the transformation and how it gets to the truck mode, there's a lot of moving parts here, which is very different from most other Optimuses, which usually just fold in the feet and you have an obvious pair of legs in the truck mode. This guy attempts to make a more realistic truck bed, which it does pull off kind of successfully, which we'll get to in a little bit. But in the robot mode, all of those joints lead to an unsatisfying to feel figure. Watch this. I move the foot just a little bit and it already comes undone. The tabs connecting the legs together are super loose and they come out really easily. Now you might be wondering, just leave it like that. Well, here's the thing. Let's say you leave everything in the leg tight and solid. Everything is locked in here. The feet have a sort of toe dip, which isn't great for balancing. Yeah. But that doesn't say it's bad. It does still stand up, and it still could get into really good poses. Speaking of poses, articulation on this guy is very good. He has all the joints you expect from a Transformer. Ball joints at the head, arms rotations, wrist swivels, waist swivels, ankle pivots, all that fun stuff. It's just that unfortunately some of the looseness in the tabs don't make it the most fun to pose. Like my copy has loose elbows and that can be tough when trying to hold his gun. The waist swivel is a little inhibited by the backpack. The hips are extremely loose. The knees are extremely loose, so it's not fun to stand. The tabbing in the legs doesn't make it fun to pose there, and the feet are a nightmare. But make no mistake, this guy is an absolute joy to pose, and I love every second of it. Anyway, for a quick size comparison, here he is next to G1 Optimus Prime and Bayverse Studio Series Optimus Prime. And as you can see, it's a great melding of both of these designs. It's just a shame that it's not the most solid when compared to these two. The transformation was very impressive and very intuitive, and I really appreciate the attempt to make a complex transformation out of this thing. However, the tabs and all the fiddliness, it results in an experience that isn't as fun to transform as the other primes I have. But honestly, I'd say the transformation all in all is worth it because this truck mode is really freaking good. Truck mode is fantastic. The transformation was definitely worth it to get to something this accurate, or at least to the specific truck that it is. It's not accurate to the film itself, which again is emblematic of the whole concept art, Bumblebee toys, but I think it came out really great for the truck that it's trying to be. I especially enjoy how the back actually tries to replicate a real truck with like the trailer hitch, the gappiness, and whatever this thing is, I don't know trucks, but like it's way more involved. It works really well, and I think out of all of these, it's the closest to trying to create an accurate real-world vehicle mode that doesn't look like it becomes a Transformer. Even the bottom of it, there's not really any form of kibble here. There are some small things that I don't like. Depending on how you like tab it in, it sort of like causes the truck to lean forward. So you just gotta like really push it in, and it should work pretty well. I remember that was a problem the longest time when I had this toy originally. So for a quick size comparison, here he is next to Earthrise G1 Prime and the Studio Series Bayverse Prime. And I think out of these three, this is definitely my favorite vehicle mode. But other than that, I really don't have anything to say about this mode. I think it's fantastic. And I can say the same thing about the figure as a whole. It is fantastic. Sure, mine has a bit of a looseness issue. Some of the joints don't really work, and the legs in particular don't want to stay together. But it looks fantastic in both modes. Yeah, I'd say this is a fantastic figure. And I would say go get it, but currently Yeah.
Hey, editing Alex again. So I found out that Hasbro Pulse is selling this for retail price. So if you want it for normal prices, go right ahead. Please?
So all in all, I'm gonna give this guy a 7 out of 10. Bordering on an 8. And a kiss. But anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like and a comment, let me know what you think, and I will see you guys next time.
Rhinox, maximize!